Okay, so if you are seeing this, it means you've gotten the email. Hopefully you're following the instructions and you have that sheet of paper either open on your screen where you can watch this as well, or you've printed it out, however you're doing that. Anyway, you're going to want to follow along what I'm talking about on the document that I gave you. We're just talking about poster presentations as well as oral presentations. Now, poster presentations are not as common in the academic setting as oral presentations, but you might encounter them. Let's say you have a professor that wants each person to give a small presentation set up at their desk, or perhaps there will be a meeting of a society, science students, what have you. Anyway, a poster presentation, and you may have seen them before. It's like if you go to a convention, okay, and you have that big open room in the center, and around those where people walk through the main aisle, on either side you have booths. Inside those booths, somebody's sitting there, there's a table, and on top of that is usually a visual display, the poster, what they're calling now, or what I'm calling now. Okay. Now, why would you want to do this? Well, it could be an assignment. It could also be a way of getting out an idea that you have faster than the usual publishing methods. But for now, let's just think that it's going to be in a classroom setting or maybe as part of a club. All right? Now, two things that it has to accomplish. It has to be aesthetically pleasing, okay? Because you're trying to grab people's attention. People are walking by, and they want to look down, see a poster, go, oh yeah, okay, that's intriguing. Let's talk about this. I want to talk to this guy, girl, whomever. It also has to be able to communicate your objective, what you're trying to get done, what you're trying to get across, your point, very quickly. Now, this is not a paper. All right, it's one of the first things you have to realize. I know it sounds stupid, but it's driven by visuals, but not text. This little poster you're going to have there. An intriguing picture, a graphic, maybe a couple of bullet points, a really intriguing heading. That's what you want as somebody walks by. They see it, they go, oh, that's interesting. And you're right there to talk to them about it in more detail. Okay? Poster is limited, however big the size is that your particular professor or club, what have you, allows you. All right? And let's see. You don't want to have, you want to attract the attention. You got to hit your major points you're trying to get across here. You fill in the details if somebody's interested enough in your poster to bother talking to you. That's why it's like advertising. Think of it like that. And nobody wants to read a lot. They're walking by, really dense text, they'll walk right on by. Imagine a paper, and it's chock full from the very top to the very bottom, nothing but text. That's intimidating. Whereas if you have a nice page with dialogue in it, there's a lot of white space, it's a lot more attractive to read, and people are pulled into it by more. This is just, most people when they read books, they see that next page is like, got all that text. They want to go back. All right. So, citations, no, not usually. If they're in the field, they'll know who these people are. And if you want to, you can print up a nice citation sheet, have copies of it on your table, and hand it out to anybody who is interested enough in following up on where you got your information. Now, the posters themselves, size depends on, again, the conference size and the class. It has to be available for somebody to read 3 to 6 feet people away, 3 to 6 feet away, as people are walking by in an aisle. Okay. Now, I'm not going to go over all the numbers here. It's here. If you need it, keep this piece of paper and look it up. Don't title, all caps, big font. Okay? You don't want a lot of characters here. Again, attract attention. Right? Needs to be short and descriptive. A bit better than what a lot of the titles you've been using in the class so far. So not only does it have to tell people what the paper is about, this is your title, but also sort of your take on it, what makes it interesting. So when people walk by your booth, in this case, they'll see the poster and there'll be a description about what you're going to be talking about and your particular take on it. That's what's going to attract somebody and bring them in. Okay. Again, one of the most important things to attract attention: title and visuals. Okay. Now, serif and non-serif fonts. Whoops. This top here, the title, that's non-serif. It doesn't have all those funny little doohickeys here at the top, down here at the bottom, that make these nice visual lines that you can follow across. A serif font is what you use for the body text, bullet points. This is what you use for titles. Non-serif, Helvetica, Geneva, Verdana. Here, Times New Roman, just Times in general. Classic serif fonts. All right. In your text, it's going to be smaller. You really want to have the bullet points. It's really important to stress, people don't want to read your presentation. Okay? They want to walk by the little box, your booth, look down, see something that's interesting, and then talk to you. So you want to prepare, let's say, a 5-minute talk. Okay? You want to memorize it. You're not going to read this to anybody, but you want to have something in place where somebody goes, oh, well, tell me a little bit more about whatever it is, and then you can give them your spiel. Okay. Now, even on the poster, you want to have something that, a take-home message. Maybe the person looks down, they're interested, and there's something you want them to take away from that poster. Maybe they'll circle around and come back. That's what you're going to want to have at the bottom. Make sure that there's something that people were intrigued by. The same thing with your 5-minute speech. You want to leave them with something that lingers. Okay. Let's see here. The paper that I did send you that you're reading right now, this is specifically for doing a scientific lab report as a poster presentation. In your case, you're not going to have, let's say, methods, materials, and results, but you still have the same flow top to bottom, introduction, body, and conclusion that you would, but just in miniature. Okay. Next, this is what you're probably going to end up doing in at least one class. Probably more, but at least one. Oral presentations. This is what Paul Ewald is giving. This is the TED presentation you're going to watch after this, that this is a preface for. All right. Those times that you see there, this is for my 210.3 class. Don't worry about the time so much, but this gives you an idea, a short period of time that you're going to be up there. You're going to be given this by whatever organization or your teacher. This is how much time you have to prepare, this is how much time you have to actually talk, and then maybe or maybe not have to answer questions. Depend on the individual instructor or situation. Something to think about. Now, for the most part, if you're not in a speech class, your actual delivery is less important than your content. Obviously, the teacher, the class, we have to understand what you're saying. So at least it has to be that good. Right? But in my 210 class, I don't deduct people for not being really smooth in their English. Okay, again, I have to understand them. I have to be able to follow their ideas clearly. We're good. All right. Now, in an introduction, you do want to attract attention, just like a paper here. I mean, obviously, if you write a paper, you give it to me, I'm going to read it, whether it's interesting at the beginning or not. It's my job. Just like if people go to a convention and they want to see a speaker, well, they already know what the speech is going to be about. They've seen it in the liner notes, the brochure, what have you, and they go in. But you still want to grab people's attention. Get them to forget about text messages and email and their iPad. Grab people. This is exactly what Ewald does in the speech that presentation you're going to watch. He comes out there and he says something funny in his case. Grabs the attention, makes people pay attention. Once you have people's attention, then you can start talking. All right? Never read your presentation. Ever. It's dull. Okay? You want to have it set up, written out, rehearse it. If you have notes on it, you never want to read it. Okay? A couple reasons why. One, when people read things, they tend to be monotonous. Two, well, it was one, yeah, now it's two. Two, if you lose your place, you get stuck and you go, oh, where am I? Where am I? And you keep looking down at the paper, and it's horrible to see people up there giving their presentations, and they got lost. If you have it memorized and you've rehearsed it, they're just there to make you feel better. Or maybe there's some fact that you couldn't remember right off the top of your head. It'll be written down there. Again, the body here, this is talking about lab reports, methods, materials, results, etc. You're going to stick with the type of essay or presentation that the assignment is that you've been given. In the discussion, when you close up, you summarize everything that you're doing. You definitely want to give them a take-home message. All right, this is really important. Make them remember something at the end of your talk. Now, citations. You don't give them in the lecture. Maybe if you have a visual and you can write at the very bottom where it is, okay, that's fine. If people are really interested in what you have to say and where you got your information, they'll talk to you about it. You can discuss it then. All right. Now, if you happen to do a question and answer session, you hear the question, repeat it so everybody else can hear the question, and then give the answer. That just makes it more usable for everybody in the audience rather than just a one-on-one conversation between you and the questioner. Okay. And if you don't know, say it. No one knows everything. That also means you should do your research and know a bit more than just what you're presenting. Know the facts are on the outside, so you're not like, well, I don't know. And it gets kind of bad. All right. Another thing when you're writing up the text, you might want to use note cards instead of the actual text for the presentation. Of course, you're going to want to write it up. You rehearse it, you get really good at it, and then you have the cards, which, if you ever get slightly lost, you can always look down there. Oh yeah, here I am. Plus, if you drop them, you should number them. So in case you do drop them, you can put them back in order quickly. Right. That's what I meant to say. Because it'd be horrible to go up there, you have 10 cards, it drops, and you have to go, I don't know where it is. Okay. Visuals are very, very important for this. First thing is, no one came to an oral presentation to read your presentation. Text is at a minimum. A title, maybe a subtitle, maybe some bullet points of the major points, and then figures and tables. Tables are, of course, tables. Figures are everything else. Photographs, graphs, anything else that you can put up there as a visual, that's a figure, with the exception of a table. You're going to see this with Paul Ewald. He comes up there, he has a little introductory PowerPoint, and then he has a couple of visuals going to show you about the effects on malaria and cholera. This is what he's spending his time talking about. All right? Look at those. They're simple. They're easy to understand. They communicate clearly what he's trying to get across. The trends, the main point, the support for his argument. And that's really what you want up there. Okay. You have to make sure that whatever you put up there, you can read from the back of whatever room you're going to be in, the classroom. In other words, it could be pretty big. A lot of times people allow you to use PowerPoint and actually project it. That's what most of my students do in 210. Maybe you have to bring in a poster. There's also a blackboard. You can write up visuals on a blackboard. That's also an option. Look at what you're given and figure it out. Take advantage of everything. And that is about it on oral presentations, except a couple pieces of advice. One, if you screw up, you're the only one who knows. So keep it a secret, or maybe not a secret. Just understand that everybody's going, aha, you blew it. You're like, oh, and then you can make it up. Okay, not falsify it, but go back to it, correct the problem. And two, find one person to talk to. Okay, unless you're really good at giving talks, if you find one person to talk to, it becomes a one-on-one, not a one-on 20, 50, 5,000. Makes it a lot easier to give a presentation. All right, so after this, you're going to look to the podcast from TED. Okay, Paul Ewald is going to be talking about how to use evolutionary theory to make disease less dangerous as well as eliminate it. Okay, the two questions that you're going to be answering for me with a paragraph on each is fine. First, how does a clean water supply prevent antibiotic resistance in cholera? 2, how would cheap nets eradicate malaria in low-intensity bite zones, like in 1930s northern Alabama? Watch the podcast with those ideas in mind. Write me a nice couple paragraphs, and I will see you